Dida here, historical injustices with regard to land, do they exist? Does it bother you that some people own a lot of land?
Well, historic injustice, this started when the Mzungu came, and very few Europeans were allocated 20% of the most fertile land. When they left, the Kenyatta regime took advantage of that, the Moi regime took advantage of that, and may I just read the cry of a Kenyan here. It's not my 2 minutes, it is the Kenyan. Just assume that somebody has...
Well, it's within your 2 minutes, Mr. Dida. You are doing it on behalf of that Kenyan.
Now somebody says, Kiambu residents who live in colonial villages have called on Prime Minister Raila Odinga and Lands Minister James Orengo to address their resettlement plans before they leave office. We have been living in deplorable conditions in these colonial villages, which was started in the early 1950s. And then he says, he challenged Deputy Prime Minister Uhuru Kenyatta to dismantle the remaining colonial villages in Kiambu because it is his home. He accused Uhuru of neglecting residents, saying he holds huge chunks of land formerly owned by residents. The government, the Prime Minister, was found during this campaign season saying they have land they acquired illegally and they should be ready to surrender it. If somebody has stolen land, who is supposed to correct this and discipline this? This is the government. But the Prime Minister goes around saying, I'm not yet the government, I've just got half a bread. I will work on this. That can never work. My government will do 4 things. 1, education. Kenyans must be educated on the contents of Ndungu Commission, Ndungu report. Who has stolen the land? Permanent secretaries, directors, everybody in this office is a big thief of land. It in fact dwarfs the Anglo-leasing and the Golden Bag issue. Number 2, implementation of the Ndungu report, the national land policy.
That's your time is up, Mr. Dida. Mr. Kenyatta, you probably need to respond because he has mentioned you, whoever the author of that is.
Well, I have no idea who the author of that report is. But what I can say categorically and clearly is that there is nothing in that statement that is true. I have said severally, I have never, save for the rumor mongering, been accused of any impropriety in terms of grabbing anybody's land. Land that we own as a family is land that has been purchased on the basis of willing buyer and willing seller. At no instance whatsoever. However, we do recognize that there is need to deal with this problem, not from an emotional point of view, but from a practical point of view. And that is why we have said, for example, in our own manifesto, that what we intend to do is to ensure that 60%, 67% of the land mass in this country, which remains unadjudicated, is adjudicated so that communities and individuals can begin to use that land as a factor of production as opposed to the way it is currently now. And I believe that we want to move to a society where Kenyans can own land that they can build property on, farm, increase production in this country, as opposed to the manner in which we have handled it so far, which really has just focused on speculation, has just focused on playing on people's emotions, as opposed to actively trying to find a solution that will allow Kenya to move forward.
Do you find it necessary maybe to say how much land we are talking about?
Pardon?
Do you find it necessary to say how much land you or someone else in your family owns? Because that seems to be a major point of speculation that you keep referring to.
I really don't, unless you insist that I do. But the most important aspect is the fact that, as I have always stated, no organization from anti-corruption to the Ministry of Lands has ever accused me of any kind of impropriety in land. Not at all, not anywhere.
So you wouldn't be willing to mention how much?
Well, like I'm saying, I do own land. That I do. And it is declared. You know...
How much, sir?
You know, we have now the Public Officers Ethics Act. And it clearly states that every public officer, of which I am one, and have been since the law was in place, is supposed to report on his or her wealth. I have dutifully in accordance with the law, fulfilled that particular requirement. Those files are available and open for anybody who has any reason to suspect me of doing anything. They just need to go to the Speaker's office
Mr. Dida,
and
you've
access
been
those files.
raising, I'll come to Mr. Odinga in a minute.
Yeah.
Mr. Dida.
This is the Star, Monday, 14th January, and those speaking are the Kamugunga Village Welfare Group Chairman Stephen Kinuthia and the National Land Accord Movement Chairman Elijah Mburu. Now what I want to ask my brother is this. If Kiambu, where he comes from, the residents are complaining, can he take charge of this country and work on land issues in the 47 counties?
I want to put it
Yes.
this way. It is not just in Kiambu that we have a problem with land. We have a problem in land in every single one of our 47 counties. And I believe that is why land was a critical component of our new constitution. That is why we have now the National Land Commission that has been given the mandate to look into issues of historical justice, to look into issues of grabbed land, to look into issues of land use. I have stated clearly, and I will state again, as president, I will take an oath that I will protect and defend that constitution. I intend to do so fully, irregardless of who or what is involved. We have that constitution, and it is the responsibility of each and every one of us to ensure that it is fulfilled and what is stated is done in the best interests of the people of the Republic of Kenya.
Mr. Odinga, you were mentioned also by that document that Mr. Dida seems to be referring to.
Well, in defense of my brother Uhuru Kenyatta, he was just an innocent inheritor. He did not commit the original sin. And I think the country should sympathize with him. But the issue is that there was a betrayal of the freedom fighters, the original freedom, the struggle. Those who sacrificed most were completely abandoned by the leadership. And that's the reason why this issue has remained a contentious issue for all this time. And it's now we have a National Land Commission which will be given powers under my government to deal with these issues comprehensively, respecting the sanctity of the title.